Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of Left Off the Map. It's a Friday, so we're in the kitchen barbecuing. We're dealing with a fish that is caught on the east coast of Tasmania, predominantly striped trumpeter. Now because I want to try and keep my barbecue looking pristine and clean, and we don't really need the Maillard reaction in this dish, so we're not looking at caramelizing, or we're not looking at crispy skin, or we're not looking at trying to get that really dark colour that you get when cooking directly on the hot plate. We can get away with putting down some foil and baking paper. Foil is going to be a great conductor of that heat coming through the barbecue, and the baking paper is going to be our non-stick component for this piece of fish. But before we get to that, we do have to prepare the fish. So whole side, if I turn it over, you'll be able to see the bone, the backbone there, running down the middle of the fish. That is what's going to protect the flesh when we cook it. So we're going to gently cook it from the bone side through to the skin side. So the bone side is what's going to go down onto the hot plate. But I want to try and add some flavour to this. So I'm going to score it through to the backbone, and then try and get, this does a couple of things. One, it aids in the cooking process so that it cooks evenly, and it'll help us get some extra flavour in. So it just breaks up the density of the fish and allows more heat to be able to get in between those scoring marks that we've got there, so that by the time the flesh that's on the bone, even though the flesh that's on the bone takes longer to cook, we want to make sure the flesh that's on the bone is cooked at the same time as the flesh that's near the skin, and this scoring will help do that, help radiate that flavour through. So I've got a chimichurri here. Chimichurri is a herb-based salsa or herb-based sauce. South American, lots of flavour, and this is a lemon-based one which is going to go nicely with the fish. So a little bit of that, probably 1 to 2 tablespoons of chimichurri into a bowl, a little bit of extra lemon juice, so probably the juice of half a lemon. And there's enough olive oil in our chimichurri that we don't really need to add any. I will put a pinch of salt in there, add in, and then just pour that over the fish. And then rub it on the skin and try and rub it into those score marks that we've created. Try and get flavour into the flesh of the fish. You can let that sit for about half an hour. You don't have to pop it back into the fridge. It's just come out of the fridge. Let it sit for half an hour so the fish gets up to room temperature, and that chimichurri dressing can sort of start infusing that flesh. It's looking pretty good. Okay, so I'll just let that sit for half an hour. Then we'll go on to our barbecue plate. Remember, foil down first, then baking paper, a little drizzle of olive oil on the baking paper, and then the fish goes onto that, bone side down, skin side up. Fish is cooked. A little tip for checking whether your fish is cooked when you're cooking fish on the bone like this whole. If you pull one of these dorsal spines, it should pull out. If it does, that means it's cooked, because the protein has set enough that you can actually pull that dorsal spine out. And you'll also see the albumin, which is that white starting to form around the fish. So it means that that protein is set, it's squeezing that albumin out. So that's done. I can turn that off and let that just sit to rest on there while I prep the last few ingredients to go on. So just chilli and coriander, just roughly chop. Like I said before, I mean, your favourite herbs. I've put the chimichurri in there, so coriander and chilli are going to be in that. Just reinforcing those flavours, and lemon juice to finish, and a little bit of olive oil. So I can transfer our fish off, but I'll actually, while there's still a little bit of heat in there, sprinkle my chili and coriander on top. Lemon juice over the top of the fish. Drizzle of olive oil. Salt. That is a whole side of stripey cooked on the barbecue, bone side down. Really protects the fish flesh from that intense heat from the barbecue and gently cooks it all the way through. So pop it onto a serving tray, into a middle of a table, and basically at this point you just need a couple of forks, and if you pull that flesh it'll just fall away from the bone because we've cooked it so well.